the recording and maybe also the transcript. I think it's been doing transcripts, maybe not. Okay, so let me explain a little bit about HackMD. And I know it's maybe, it seems like a left turn a little bit to me sometimes, but
Are you sharing your screen, Peter?
I am not, but I am about to. Um, and before I do that, let me also make my screen a little bit bigger. And apologies for fiddling around here, but it'll be a better recording. So I'm going to my Mac settings and doing displays, and then this monitor and changing it to be a bit bigger. There. So now I'll share. This is me when I'm working a lot with Midjourney. I've got Midjourney up on one side and my web browser over here. So let's do just web browser and look at HackMD. So HackMD is a way that I take notes, and other people can take notes with me as well. In some meetings, we're all taking notes. So this works a little bit like Google Docs, but it's a little bit different too. And the thing to know is when you click on the link, if you click on the link, you don't have to, but if you click on the link in the chat, you'll get to this screen, and I've set it up so that you don't have to log in. It might look like it might pop up a thing that says you can log in, but you don't have to. And then the other thing to know is this view has an edit view and a pretty view, and then an edit and a pretty view. So there you go. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I use, along with notes, I use this also to kind of keep track of an agenda a little bit. I'm going to do something a little fancy here and make these into checkboxes. And Amanda, I'll add ChatGPT, GPT-4, you said plugins. Okay, so here's the part of the call where I like to go, if anybody's got other questions, other things to talk about, I can keep rambling on about whatever is up here already, but I want to make this call useful for you guys. So I think that the place to start might be ChatGPT and prompting and plugins and stuff like that. But what else might we want to cover today?
I just like to raise the issue that it seems a lot of people are interested in having an LLM help them with doing complicated things like writing a book and keeping track of characters and things like that. And I was wondering if at some point we can have a meeting that covers that, because it's sort of a tricky topic, because you really, really need to have, I think, a retrieval augmented generation kind of thing set up. And to keep track of all of that, although there may be better writers tools that automatically have that built in, but I think a lot of people would be interested in that, because they're interested in I think a lot of people are interested in keeping track of a lot of personal information or chats or data, and somehow being able to access that, maybe even on their own computer or device. So maybe if at a future meeting, we could have like a meeting that covers installing a Mistral app, and maybe like chat mem or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called, where it can remember everything.
I think it's
MemChat.
MemGPT, right?
MemGPT,
MemChat?
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
MemGPT, yeah, I think that's what it is. I think overall people are wanting to go down that direction over time, because this way they have control of their the data. It's private, it's on their machine. They don't have to worry about the cloud and or guardrails or things like that. And
Yep.
for future meetings, I thought I'd mention all of those. Thanks.
Um, awesome. Thanks, RJ. And it would be super fun to cover a little bit of that stuff today. I don't, I think I've played around a little bit with Mistral and Mixtral. I haven't played around with the MemGPT, but I have played around with the Llama file, and I can show off that. I've been playing around with this too, writing a book and keeping track of characters. So, well, not keeping track of characters, keeping track of lots of data. And for me, that goes right to Obsidian. Um, so there's kind of two things there, keeping, helping the LLM know a bunch of stuff, which is where RJ mentioned retrieval augmented generation. But I think also a thing that most people don't really know how to do is keep track of a lot of conversations. And that's super easy to do with Obsidian. And so that's where I would go with this is a lot of Obsidian and a little bit of LLMs, either local ones or ChatGPT. Okay, so RJ and I just bounced around through a lot of,
You might want to ask other people if they have topics too.
yeah. Before we go there, RJ and I bounced through a bunch of like a little bit more technical, like jargon stuff. Um, do we want to go back and unpack some of that, or we'll just do it in context when we come up to it?
In context is fine for me.
Okay, cool. And like RJ said, any other topics people might want to cover, or we'll just kind of dig in where we're talking already a little bit.
Just dig in.
Well, I
Awesome.
do want to raise another topic. So I attend other meetings too, and a lot of people are interested in, and Amanda is interested in this too, I think. People are trying to write resumes, and they're trying to write them automatically based on what job listings that they get dumped occasionally. So that would save them a lot of time. And so I've been on other meetups where people ask this like a lot. They say, I'm job searching. I want to automatically have GPT or some LLM help them, write the resume or craft it just tailored for that job listing and maybe do a lot of other automated stuff. So if that's another topic that could be covered at some future time, I think that would help a lot of people, I think.
That's really smart, RJ. I like it a lot. um, and that, like tracking applications.
And I know there are tools out there that people can pay for, but a lot of people complain that they're expensive and they don't do a good job. And so,
yep.
It's really true. They are extremely expensive, and then even though they're trying to tailor everything, I feel like it's still you're spamming all these different companies, and it doesn't quite have a human element if you're using one of those like, oh yeah, apply 250 jobs in 1 hour. It doesn't give the same feel.
Thanks. And things that we don't cover, these notes will end up on a website. So things that we don't cover today, as RJ kind of knows, they'll go into a backlog and we'll pick them up at some point. Let me show you, so to that point, let me show you, and I thought I wrote it down here someplace, but I guess I didn't. Let me show you where I've been keeping kind of notes and things like that for so I set up a website at ai101.peterkaminsky.wiki. peterkaminsky.wiki is my personal website, even though it's not very well developed. And but then this is a sub site for AI 101. And this is where you can go and see recordings for previous sessions that we've had, at least the ones where we did recordings. So if you click on any of these, you'll go to a page that has a tiny description and a YouTube link, and the next session and the previous session. So you can kind of skip through these. Oops. And a thing you can always do is click home to get back to a place where you know what's going on, because you can kind of get lost there. So this was the call on 2 days ago, on Sunday. And so here's a YouTube link and a tiny summary of it. And then this AI summary is generated by Zoom, and so it kind of follows along in the conversation, and then summarizes it. It gets it wrong a lot of the time. It gets it a little bit wrong, so it doesn't know HackMD is a word, so it thinks that's HackMe. There was another one down here that made me kind of laugh. Chat GP exporter, which is pretty close. So this is probably me not saying it and enunciating well enough, but anyway. I haven't, I don't go in, it would take a lot of time to fix these to be perfect. And so I just put a disclaimer, and if you kind of pronounce it, you kind of know what's going on. So another thing I did just yesterday, I've got a little company called Path Shift People with a few other folks. And let me go to a different place. I'm going to be starting to make more tutorials and things like that. And so we've got something called the Path Shift People is a little company, and the store is going to keep accumulating more and more videos and subscriptions to newsletters and things like that. So this is where you can watch a kind of compressed version of my Obsidian introduction. It's for pay, but you can pay $0. So all you would do is put $0 here and you can get it for free. So there you go. So let me put this this link in the chat, and we'll keep I'll keep, I keep adding to this, and I can also link to other things. RJ's got another list that's awesome of resources, so I've linked to his list.
And while thanks for bringing it up. And so while you're mentioning that, I was wondering whether you on your website wanted to have such a thing, since you're a wiki kind of person. And this was, by the way, this was from another group that I also am co-hosting. I'm co-hosting another group, and we were using a Slack workspace. And after 90 days, your free Slack workspace messages get archived and you can't access them. So this was my temporary way to, at least for the people there, and also for the AI Salon too, because I started sharing it there on the Discord. And this was just a way for me to put all the links in one place on a website, because yola.com allows you to make a couple of free websites that are, and it's sort of WYSIWYG and just drop and drag. So, but I was wondering if you could suggest a better approach, because I know that we use the Mighty Networks to sort of do something like this, for where people can add their own tools and things. But I think that given your knowledge and expertise with wiki approaches, maybe there's a better approach that could be put in place. And this way people could, participate and not have to use the Mighty Networks limited capabilities. They could use maybe one of your wiki massive wiki approaches or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, that's really smart, RJ. And thanks so much for capturing all this and making sure that it's available somewhere. It would be pretty easy to turn, what I would probably do is turn each of your headings here into a separate page. And so this is what's called a massive wiki. It's an easy to build website, and you can do it all for free. So I think what we should do, RJ, is kind of convert your Yolan site to a massive wiki. And we could record that over a couple sessions, and that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool. And if there was some way AI could actually search it for help people find something that they're looking for very quickly, that would be good too.
Yeah, I haven't done this, but it would be easy to take all the each of these pages. So I'm going to shift a little bit into Obsidian, I guess. I feel like apologizing, but I'm not going to actually. It's a good thing. This is not the one I want, so let me pick a different one. I maintain that whole website through Obsidian, actually. And the cool thing is that once you use Obsidian for a little thing someplace, you get to use it for other things. So people start with Obsidian so that they can keep track of just, their text files. So for a job search or something like that, and keeping track of applications and different versions of your resume and things like that, Obsidian would be great. Keeping track of things that you learn, Obsidian is great. I've got a little tweak and some extra tools that make it so that you can use Obsidian to manage a website. And then Obsidian is free for personal use. The tools that I use to make a website out of it are also free for kind of personal use. So so including the hosting, having a custom domain if you want, you can do all that stuff for free. It's pretty awesome, and works well. And there's a virtuous circle of the ecosystem of all these tools. So this is using something called Markdown. And when you're using Markdown in this tool, you can use Markdown in another tool, and it's awesome. So what I would do, my suggestion, RJ, would be just what we could set up. We could either pull all that stuff into this website, or we could create another website that you could run, or either way. And now then, this is not a very interesting website. I mean, it's very interesting for the few things that we've got, but it doesn't have a large knowledge base. But it would be super easy to, let's see, click on this and say reveal in Finder. It would be super easy to, sorry, I'm juggling two screens here. These are all just text files, more or less. So you could add all of these as a knowledge source, or if they were more interesting about job searches or all about ChatGPT or something like that, you could add all these text files as knowledge sources to a GPT. And then theoretically, it would be able to let you chat with this website as well as, browse through it like normal. So, and not only for RJ's things, but for mine, I'm going to keep adding and building this and keep adding things like a GPT to access it. So, and then doing some sessions on that and recording them and making those as essentially tutorials. That would be awesome. So, Amanda, thanks for cover letters. Let me add that to the notes unless somebody has already. Okay. So Amanda, let's kind of come back to ChatGPT and prompting and plugins and stuff. Um, I could just start riffing, but I think it might be more useful to kind of um, bring up ChatGPT plus, um, and then have you ask some questions about something. I'm not sure exactly what. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, I was going through all the different plugins, and honestly, I was just getting lost. That there was I was doing it last night on the phone, but when I did it on the computer, I was even more lost. I wasn't I wasn't sure exactly how a lot of these are used. It looks like it's an overlay onto it, or I might be using the wrong wording there. But
Um,
it
yeah, that's a great question. That's perfect. Uh, let me see how quickly I can draw a picture that'll help us a little bit. So if we were all in the same room and with a whiteboard, this would be easier, but we can do a little bit with our computer. So I'm going to use another thing that I use a lot, and this is free to use too. This is a drawing program. It's kind of a drafting program, kind of like Visio or something like that, or OmniGraffle or Smart Draw. Um, and it's actually a very high quality tool, and it's free. The people who make this make their money by selling some of the technology they use to make this, but this they just keep free, and it's actually really nice. So what I was going to say was there's Chat GPT, and then plugins, and there's a whole bunch of like confusing things all together, right? GPTs, um, and then um, uh, I'm going to say there's APIs and maybe knowledge sources. It's kind of interesting. These things are plurals, and then ChatGPT is a singular. So I guess making that observation, I'll make this a little bit bigger so I have a little bit more room. Uh, let's also say other LLMs. And then also things like Flow GPT and Poe. So you might think that I'm trying to draw a flow diagram where you can see data flows or something like that. All I'm trying to do is say that there's these different kinds of things, and if we see a picture of them, and then we can talk about them a little bit better. So ChatGPT is a kind of an LLM. ChatGPT is with plugins. They have a new thing called GPTs. GPTs can talk to APIs, and GPTs can talk to knowledge sources. Hang on just a sec. My dog is getting up. I'm gonna go grab. This is Dinky. It's always a little bit, this time of morning, it's always a little bit of a gamble when it exactly is going to go. Okay, um, so plugins and GPTs and even APIs kind of can all do the same kinds of things, but they're actually kind of very different too. So I think, and then maybe another thing to know is that different people participate in these ecosystems for different reasons. Sometimes it's to promote their company. Sometimes it's to help people get something accomplished. Sometimes it's to make money. And it's a mix of all of those things, right? So there's an interesting thing where plugins, I think, are kind of less useful than we initially thought. So a plugin is a way, let's see, a plugin is a way to have a whole separate application like Canva, or maybe a job search site, or lots of different things. Maybe we should go look at the store. I could write diagrams, or I make diagrams. I could talk to PDFs. I can book travel. So at some point, if I'm trying to do something interesting, it's like, do I really need to go through all these different kinds of plugins to find the right thing? Um, and it may be that I would want to chat in natural language to Kayak or Expedia, but I'm actually pretty good already with just searching their websites. So some of these things, like a diagram maker, where you have to learn a tool to do a diagram, it might help you, chatting with the bot and then having the bot chat with the plugin might be a really useful thing. But having a big store full of plugins and trying to figure out which ones are the right ones for you is not super helpful. So I think maybe the thing to do is kind of ignore the plugins. And unless you hear of somebody that says, wow, this one is really doing a great job for me. Maybe a diagram thing, Canva or something like that. So if I go back to this, is that kind of good enough, Amanda, or should I, do you have another
No, I
question?
mean, if things are moving at a fast pace, I can see people saying, "Oh no, that's obsolete now. Oh no, that there are better ways of doing it." So I'm here to learn about the best way to do stuff. So if it's not plugins, it's not plugins.
Um, it's because it's a good point. The way you said it is, it's moving fast. It's not so much that, the GPT store is kind of the same thing. There's a lot of hype about the GPT store that is meaningful in some ways and not meaningful and not helpful in other ways. So I guess a place like AI Salon is a great place to ask questions, get a sense of what's going on, what's really useful. There are definitely plugins that are going to be super useful. Canva is the one I know about. I haven't played around with it much myself. I think there's also a mind map tool that I think has a pretty good plugin. So if you need a plugin is like amazingly useful, but you don't need many plugins, and you only need the ones that are amazingly useful, I guess. And then part of what happened, I guess where I'm trying to get around to is just because ChatGPT got so much splash and OpenAI wants to keep them being top of the heap for LLMs, kind of. It was easy for them to make a way for plugins to work, and then if you're doing that and you're in the, either the IT department or the marketing department of a big travel company or a big news company or somebody that helps sell domain names, it's like, wow, all we need to do is integrate with, make a plugin, integrate with ChatGPT, and then we can do a marketing launch. And then, so in some way, the plugin store is a bit of a marketing thing. And in some cases, it's useful. Wikipedia is probably useful. Uh, another really awesome thing, Wolfram Alpha is a really good plugin. So it's funny, if you look at my plugin list, there's this is another AI tool, and I don't even really know it very well. So, but Wolfram Alpha is a really interesting thing that. So I'm going to get like totally off on a different tangent here, but maybe it's good to know about these things. Wolfram Alpha was developed by a really smart guy, Stephen, I think his name is Wolfram, and it does really fancy, really, really, really fancy math. And then it also, when they built Wolfram Alpha, it started to know a lot about different kinds of things, including, people and countries and chemistry and all that kind of stuff. This was a little bit earlier than ChatGPT, and it knows more and more deeply and more precisely in lots of different ways. So you can ask it things like, what's university? This is something that you wouldn't expect a computer to be able to do, especially before ChatGPT. And it works completely differently than ChatGPT, and it's older, but it understands math and understands statistics, and it'll let you do things and creates graphs and stuff like that. So so this is a little bit hard to use, and the integration between ChatGPT and Wolfram was actually really useful. Now I feel like I've gotten, let's get back a little bit closer to ChatGPT, and maybe let's go back to this picture. So this is a great picture. All the new hotness now is the GPTs, kind of the same thing, and some of it is marketing hype. Some of it is actually very useful. A GPT is just, and Amanda, let me ask you, maybe, do you know about GPTs yet?
Literally came across that last night, and it was too late to do a deep dive. So I would love a better explanation.
Like, I'm going to take care of my baby, or I'm going to read about GPTs. It's an easy choice.
Yes, very much.
So this is actually a really cool thing. GPTs are they're kind of like what plugins promised in a way, and kind of not. They deliver on some of the promise and don't. But the cool thing is GPTs can be made by anybody, and instead of plugins have to be made by a big company, basically. So GPTs are a way for, I can explain this a couple of different ways, but say for me, say I keep doing the same thing over and over with ChatGPT. I'm writing the same cover letter, and I know how to ask it how to write the cover letter, and I've got some specific details about including things or something like that. Or for me personally, I'm writing mid-journey prompts, and they need to be expressed a certain way and kind of mixed, different kinds of visual styles and all that kind of stuff. So I've got all of that in my head, and I can go over to ChatGPT and I can have kind of the same conversation yet again with ChatGPT, or I can kind of bundle all of that up into a custom ChatGPT. And OpenAI, in their infinite wisdom, called this a GPT. It's a really confusing name. I think they specifically picked it to be generic, so that if they were reasonably successful in launching GPTs, then everybody would say GPTs and ChatGPT, and they kept their branding basically. But let me show you real quick. So GPTs are going to be more useful for you. And let me show you the one that I had for creating, this was specifically for Midjourney 5, and now we're on Midjourney 6. Midjourney 5 had a, you kind of needed to use a certain kind of prompt style. And, you know, I kind of figured out, engineered a way to do that after a while. And I got tired of continuing to type in the same thing. So, so what it does, I can be a little bit more specific about what I want, but I can also just say, hey, create some visual descriptions for me. And I'm going to drag these over to Midjourney and make them. So the things about Midjourney 5 is it didn't like sentences or paragraphs. It really needed just little short clauses separated by commas. And sometimes you would throw in things like camera details and, you know, feelings and stuff like that. So these are all pretty good Midjourney 5 prompts. And writing these by hand, coming up with, you know, I want a picture of a typewriter, but what do I want a typewriter to look like? Having ChatGPT kind of come up with something, and then maybe I'll change this, or even better, ask ChatGPT to change it. But having it do a lot of the work to get me something creative is super helpful. So now let me show you how the back end of this works. If I go to edit the GPT, there's the main part of this is the custom instructions. And I wrote all of this, and you know, I figured out all this over time. Typing in this every time would be a pain in the rear. So making a GPT where I can kind of compress all of that typing once and then use it over and over and over is super helpful. So you can imagine you can have the same kind of thing. I need you to create 5 different cover letters, you know, a friendly one, a very professional one, a, you know, whatever. And here's some of the parameters that I'm going to need for your cover letter, including things you can choose from and stuff like that. So I happen to like this is specifically kind of set up to leave a lot of the brainstorming in ChatGPT's hand, but you could also take on that brainstorming stuff yourself, and you know, have more or less instructions here. So now you could do that for yourself. You can set up a GPT and help and give it to other people. You can give the link to other people just by grabbing the share link here. Maybe over here. This one is set up. It's not for sharing anyway. So, but anyway, so then that happened millions of times, and there are literally now millions of GPTs. If I search for Midjourney prompts, other people did the same thing. And I can look at these. An important thing to notice is how many times people have used them. So the ones that nobody's using, maybe I don't even want to look at those. The top couple, you know, maybe I want to try these and see what they're like. So I can do the same thing with job search or something like that. And there you go. Or resume, even better. I wonder if I can say job cover letter. Or yeah, there you go. 126. Yeah. So these GPTs written by other people, some of them are very complex, and they'll lead you through a whole, you know, discussion about what you want, and then they'll do something automatic for you. Some things are very short, and they're just they're a little hint for ChatGPT to talk specifically about, a particular topic. So it can go kind of anywhere in between. And then, oops, I'm gonna click stop there. It said it could make ATS. Yeah, there you go. So this is something where somebody, you know, somebody's played the game a fair bit and knows about applicant tracking systems and how to tweak your cover letter, your resume to get kind of exactly, exactly the thing that's going to work well for the ATS.
Yeah, this is really funny. What's happening now is people are using AI to create resumes, and then
Yeah.
the job providers are using AI to pick
To
out
analyze
which
them.
ones to pick, which candidates to pick.
So I won't go too far down this track, but this is the GPT ecosystem is probably a great place to kind of dig in some more, Amanda, when you've got time. Let's go through the process of creating your own GPT real quick. The main thing here to notice is it's super fast. If you've got ChatGPT Plus, then you click on Explore GPTs over here, then you click Create. And there's two tabs here. One of them is Create and one of them is Configure. Create is kind of a wizard for and you can start off with a wizard by just telling it what you want the thing to do. And then this wizard here, it's ChatGPT, of course, talking to you, but it's thinking in terms of helping you build a GPT. What it's doing is it's creating the stuff that goes into the configure tab, the back end of it. And it will help you come up with a name and a description and some starter questions for your users, the users of the GPT. Maybe this is just you, maybe it's your friends, your colleagues, maybe it's the wide world. Now it's using Dolly to create a profile picture, which is great too. Actually, that one I really love. It's got all the different language things there. It's awesome. Something went wrong, but at least I got my picture. I know what it's going to keep saying, now do you want me to customize, or how do you want to talk to your user, or whatever. At any time, even before, some of this, even without, at the very beginning, you can click directly to the configure tab and then change this however you want. So, so if you compare this with the GPT I created for my Midjourney prompts, my Midjourney prompt thing was bigger, it had more details and stuff like that. People get super fancy with those. You've got 8,000 characters, and some people use all 8,000. By the way, another thing, I expect RJ and Claire and maybe even Kate have seen a bunch of this stuff a lot. AI Salon has been doing an awesome job at sharing wisdom about creating GPTs, and we've got a couple amazing GPT creators. Actually, we've got a whole bunch of amazing GPT creators in here. So, so you'll hear a lot about GPTs and AI Salon because we're all learning about it together.
And then there's the weekend sessions too that they've been holding, right?
Yes. Let me AI Salon. If I go to AI Salon, there's the weekend one that that RJ is talking about is called Weekend GPT Jams, and you have to ask to be let in here. But this group is led by Anne Murphy, and they're doing amazing stuff with the GPTs. Another thing we should mention is something called GPTs for Good. This was a hackathon put on by AI Salon, Kyle, and I think it was Anne too. And then Vicky was the one who set up this website with all the GPTs. So they built, like literally 100 different GPTs for nonprofits and social good kinds of things. And then this website was built by Vicky, and the way that she did it was by, everybody shared the link, and then she went to each one and got the name and the link and the builder and a short blurb, and then she put this together. So let's get back to poetic multilingua. There's two sides to this. One of them is the where you build it thing, and you're kind of literally being a programmer, a developer here, a GPT developer, but all you do is write English. And then over here, the preview pane lets you try it out, and you try it, and you see how it works and if it's working right for you, and if you want it to be more wordy or less wordy, or maybe I would always want to make it, never print the kanji, always print just the English part, or don't print translations or do print translations, or translate into another language that the GPT knows, or something like that. I could go in here and change this like that. And every time you change the prompt, it resets the preview and you can try it again. These conversation starters are a way to prompt people who use your GPT, and you can change these, add more and stuff like that. So then you save it for only me or anybody with a link, but not the whole world or everybody, and then you're good to go. One more thing here. Another thing is there's a place where you can upload files, text files, PDFs, things like that, markdown files. This is where when RJ and I have a website with all his resources, we'll take all the markdown files and upload them here. So then the GPT has that extra information that it can use to answer questions or whatever, builds resumes. And then down here, you can turn on and off, whether or not it will go look at the web. The jobs, the ATS system actually offered to go out to a job on the web and then download it and then customize your resume for that job. And it did that by having the web browsing enabled. And then last but not least, maybe last but kind of confusingly least or something, you can add something called APIs to the back end of GPTs. And APIs are a little bit like plugins. They're built by a company or by a person sometimes. And it provides extra information, access to databases or something like that, to talk to a GPT. So the GPT can say, an example I've got is the tide table. The National Oceanic Service has a way to look up tides, and tides are important for me because I live near the coast. So I can set it up so my GPT can ask a separate, application like a tide table or a list of job database or something like that through an API. This needs a little bit of coding. We've actually done it on one of these sessions. So not a lot of coding to get started, but it's kind of technical. And then to do it super fancy, it starts getting as complicated as plugins. So there you go. I'm used to these sessions going an hour and a half, and today I've got only an hour. So we're kind of up on time. I apologize for not getting to everything, but thank you, RJ, for helping me make a list, and we'll keep cycling through this stuff. Any last real quick goodbyes or questions we should keep for next time?
Thanks, Pete.
This has been
Thanks,
really
Sarah.
great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, and I appreciate the questions and all the information. We'll see folks around. Next time is Friday morning and Friday afternoon. Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.